People underestimate the trauma of being an other in a workplace where they feel like they are not seen or heard correctly.
When I was working in one of my previous jobs, that the name thing is actually such an interesting conundrum for a lot of other people, not just me. But it actually kind of shows a little bit of ignorance too in the people that we work with when it comes to names. And I can
Yeah.
give you a very specific example of when we were at a meeting. I'm not going to be very specific because I don't want to get anybody in trouble, whatever. But we were in a meeting and somebody brought up the fact that two of our coworkers, their names are too similar. And somebody who is not, she's pretty white, I guess, Caucasian, complained that two of the other coworkers, and I'll make up some names. One of them is Trang and the other one's Yang, somewhat similar, but she's just like, ugh, it's just so much for me to like remember and learn. And I remember being in this meeting and thinking,
What?
that's not an appropriate thing to say out
Appropriate.
loud. Like, okay, you can think that, sure, but like the fact that you feel entitled enough to to voice
Comfortable.
that complaint, and then
Comfortable.
nobody calls it out except for me being like, what the, what the, what is happening? And then, but I
What?
didn't say anything because nobody said anything. And I was just really shocked that like something like that was said. And I
Yeah.
remember saying it to another coworker later on in the day. I'm like, I can't believe that so and so said that. That is so
Oh
rude.
my God.
And just kind of
Wow.
what you just said earlier about how sometimes people do make a more effort in those Eastern European names.
Yeah.
And I think about that experience and I think about her, the person who said what she said. And I remember the fact that in our pharmacy department at the time, there were two people that was named there were two people that had her name. So basically the person who voiced the complaint, her name is, I'll just make up a name, Ashley. And there's another Ashley in the freaking
Another.
department. And then one person spelled her name with a Y and the other spelled her name with an IE. And
Yeah.
guess what? When I address them in email or
Mm-hmm.
when I write them a message, I make sure to
Mm-hmm.
write the Y
Mm-hmm.
or the
The
IE,
IE.
despite them both having the same freaking name. I gave
Same.
them that courtesy because I
Yes.
care about who they are and like
Yeah.
I want to give them that respect. And
Fact.
yet there is this person that
Yeah.
is literally complaining that there's a Trang and a Yang and it's too similar for her to freaking remember. That is so disrespectful. That is happening. I want to say that happened 3, 4 years ago. This is not just like, oh, but that was
Oh,
back in the day. Like, don't give me
yeah.
that. That BS.
Yeah.
Because for a
Oh,
fact, nobody spoke up in that meeting. And I should have. Like, I literally, now that I'm thinking right now, I'm like, I should have sent my advisor or supervisor at the time an email being like, that's not appropriate. And you need to be speaking out about that. You're the freaking
yeah.
supervisor. How dare you allow something like that to like be said and spoken in a meeting? And I mean, granted, this person has said a lot of very outdated, really rude things in the past, but just that one really was like, what the,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
what? Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, man. See,
Yeah.
there,
And
I,
yeah, I hate when people do stuff like that. It's like,
I
oh,
can't.
I know they say their name this way, but I don't like it. And that's been said before too.
It's
There's like,
not, it's
it's
not
not for you
about
to freaking make
you.
that judgment. It's not. They're just like, oh, but I don't like
What?
saying it. It sounds weird to say it. So I'm just gonna say the way that I want to. Like, go.
You don't get to, you quite literally don't get to make that executive decision. Like, really plainly put, if I say that this is what I want to be addressed as, that's what we're going to address me as. And we don't need to have a brunch, a meeting, a powwow,
We
a
don't need to
huddle.
bring it up every time.
We every time it's
Like to
done.
give you an example, somebody wants to call Bobby and the group that I'm talking about, they're like, Bobby is such a kid name. I don't want to call him Bobby. I'm just gonna call him Bob or Robert because Bobby is so weird to say to an adult. And I'm literally like, who cares?
What?
That's not your choice to make that decision. That you have no like Yeah.
Oh my God.
You
Yeah,
don't have,
yeah, Thu, kudos to you for the restraint and
I'm just like,
the comp because I mean, people can accuse me of a lot of things, but one thing I don't do is I don't hand out get out of jail free cards. I just don't. I don't believe in it. It's not how we will actually get to a resolve. Like if I don't agree, I will articulate that I don't agree. Not agreeing does not mean that what you're saying is not valid. In fact, me saying that I don't agree has diddly to do with what you think. You're still allowed to think and
right.
express exactly how you feel the same way I should be able to tell you that that's not cool. That right there
It's
cannot be
not.
happening. Like that's not cool. And and I don't oh, I think I'm about to get into another episode yet again, but yet people underestimate the trauma. It's trauma. I'm not
Yeah,
I'm
100%.
not like picking the wrong word here because I know that that word is being used a lot right now, but I'm gonna you're gonna notice that I'm speaking really slowly because I want to make sure I convey this correctly. But people underestimate the trauma of being an other in a workplace where they feel like they are not seen or heard correctly. It's traumatic. I come to meetings rehearsing in my head how I want to show up, be seen, express myself. Heaven forbid, should you say something inappropriate and I decide that I'm going to check you on that, I'm going to get out of that meeting being labeled as abrasive,
Oh,
aggressive,
yeah.
angry, mad, all these different things. So I have a lot of anxiety about expressing myself publicly or privately because there are too many labels that are already slapped on me before people ever even decide to engage with me. Like it's a problem. And the
Yeah.
name thing is only one component of it. Like I said, I'm getting into a whole nother episode, but it's traumatic when I'm coming to work and I have to think and rehearse and
Oh, yeah.
rework in my
100%.
head how I'm going to present and show up to this meeting that's happening because someone is bound to say something that's just wrong.
It's traumatic for me to be like, my name is Thu, and they're like, whoa, what?
Yeah,
How do you say it? What? And I'm like, it's literally THU. If you can read, then you can say it.
say
But
it.
they freak out over that. It's very traumatic. It's like I'm like, oh God, no, okay. Like I have to like sometimes prepare myself to introduce my name. And that's
Imagine that.
not cool. That's not
No,
cool for me, yo. Like all you guys out there who's listening, like I it's not cool for me to
no.
have to be the one to be so nervous about that. And
Yeah.
also, let me give you another story. One time I was at this park or whatever with some friends, or just like a big party. I think it was like a going away party or something. And somebody's introducing me to a group of people. And I'm like, oh, yeah, my name's Thu. Or he says, her name's Tu. And I'm like, well, I go by Thu. And he turns to me, he's like, Tu's easier to say. And I was like, that again, you don't have the right to say that. I understand where he's coming from. And sure, like now I'm like, okay, whatever at this point. But I have to get there myself. Like I have to be the one to make that decision for myself. Like
Thank
why are
you.
you like teaching me how to properly introduce myself? Go
My
go somewhere else.
okay.